press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Yes, hello my dear students. So in last classes we discussed about the theoretical part of this hydrogen. So let us discuss some of the questions with regards to this hydrogen chapter. Okay, before going into the questions, you should recall some of the concepts like, see, this hydrogen, it is very important element in the periodic table, and its position in the periodic table is not well defined, or it is not justified. And one more thing is that there are so many ways those are used to prepare this hydrogen. That may be the laboratory methods, or that may be the industrial methods, or you can say the commercial methods of preparations of hydrogen, that we have discussed in case of the theoretical concepts. So there, in that concepts, you have to recall again the preparation of dihydrogen by coal gasification, that is also called as the Bosch process. Okay, so and also you should know about this one, that is nothing but the Lane process. That is a commercial method of preparing this dihydrogen. So they are very important. You have to go through those reactions. How? So here in case of this Bosch process, when this iron reacts with the water, so it will form into what you call that one's Fe3O4 oxide of iron, and then it also form what our desired compound, that is nothing but the dihydrogen. So this is called as what? Bosch process. Likewise in case of, this is nothing but the Lane process, the second one. So then Bosch process means that is whenever a coal is made to react with the steam, so it will form into a mixture of carbon monoxide and dihydrogen gas. That we call that mixture as what? That is called as the water gas, or that is also called as the syngas. That is a very important. So no need to bother about the ratio of these two, that is how many moles of carbon monoxide or dihydrogen. You should know that. So that is mixture of carbon monoxide and dihydrogen. It is called as what? Water gas, or that is also called as syngas. That is one more important concept you have to recall. Along with that, we should remember that this dihydrogen is very useful. Research is going on to use this dihydrogen as a fuel to overcome the energy crisis. Okay, so then once the control over the energy of this dihydrogen as a fuel is over, means there will be no problem of energy. Okay, so everyone can lead the luxurious life. And again, here the properties, dihydrogen, that is chemical properties, it is a highly reactive element. It will react almost all the elements except the noble gases, right? And it will form various types of compounds, that you have to recall. Then in case of this hydrogen chapter, we discuss about what is that? That is called as the compound of this dihydrogen as hydrogen peroxide, one more important compound. Its properties, its preparations. In the preparations, so you discuss about this one, that is nothing but by the action of dilute acids and the peroxides of barium. That's very important. And also alkyl lanthraquinols, when they are substituted to oxidation, they will form the hydrogen peroxide. And you should know hydrogen peroxide is a very good oxidizing as well as reducing agent. So whenever you come across the reactions of this hydrogen peroxide in the products, if you get water, means you should know that that shows the what? Oxidizing nature of hydrogen peroxide. Similarly, if you go through the reactions, if there is a formation of oxygen as a product, just I am giving a clue for you, you understood that that reaction is nothing but the reduction, or you can say reducing nature of this hydrogen peroxide. Okay, so if it is oxidizing nature, what should be there in the products? There should be water. You know about oxidizing reagents, one which undergo reduction and oxidizes others. ತಾನು ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದನ್ನು ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೈಸಿಂಗ್ ಏಜೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಹಾಗೇನೆ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ಏಜೆಂಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತಾನು ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೈಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದನ್ನ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತದ್ದು. ಸೊ that concept you have to recall in case of the properties of this hydrogen peroxide. And very important concept with reference to this hydrogen peroxide is the calculation of its volume strength. calculation of its volume strength. So that I already discussed this one. So that can be expressed in two ways, that is in terms of percentage or in terms of volume, right? So those calculations, few more calculations we are going to do here, that is with reference to volume strength, right? So and again we discuss one more important compound of this dihydrogen, that is nothing but the water. So this water is very much essential for the survival of living organisms on the surface of earth, right? So without this we cannot analyze or we cannot think of life on the surface of the earth. So this water is one of the compound of hydrogen, and then the availability, there is a very less than 1% of water is available for drinking purpose, right? Because remaining water will present in the form of ice, right? So that's why. So again we have discussed about the softening of water, hard water, that is there are two types of waters based on the reaction of water with the soap, that is hard water and then the soft water, right? So here the soft water means that will react with the soap to give more lather, Hard water means the water which gives no lather or less lather with the soap because of the formation of insoluble scum with the ions, that is calcium and magnesium ions, which are present in case of the water. Calcium and magnesium ions which are responsible for the hardness of the water. So that is. So these are the things, and then we have discussed how to soften this hard water by various methods like boiling, that is for temporary hardness, boiling and Colgan method, and then Clark's process. Again you have discussed about the permanent hardness can be removed because of what? So because of the ion exchange process or synthetic resin process, or the Colgan, that is nothing but sodium hexametaphosphate, as well as a simple process called as the soda process. Along with that we discuss about one more extra concept, that is nothing but the ortho and para hydrogens. Ortho and para hydrogens depending upon the nuclear spins. Okay, if the two atoms which are present in case of a molecule, if they rotate, if their protons which are present in the nucleus revolve in the same direction, what we call them? That is called as the orthohydrogen. If it is in the opposite direction, so one is going in the clockwise, another one is going in the anti-clockwise, means what we call that one as the para-hydrogen. And then if you go percentage wise at room temperature, the percentage of orthohydrogen will be more than the what? Para-hydrogen. As the temperature increases, the concentration of this para-hydrogen slightly increases. So these are the important points you should recall while discussing the questions. So with that, let us move on to the first question, that is hydrogen peroxide is considered as dibasic acid as it can form. Okay, so we are discussing the question with reference to the hydrogen peroxide. So we discussed this one also. The property of this hydrogen peroxide is that it is a weak acid. What type of weak acid? It is a dibasic weak acid. Okay, so it is the options are peroxides and superoxides formation, or hydroperoxide and peroxide formation, peroxides and dioxides, only dioxides. So if you count the property, this one acidic property, if you write the reaction, so it will form into HO2 minus, dibasic means with the release of one proton. Again in the second step, so it will release one more proton to form the superoxide. So that is O2 minus is called as superoxide. So in the first step, it is forming the what? Hydroperoxide, and in the second step, it is forming the peroxide. That is nothing but O2 minus. O bond O is nothing but the peroxide. That is the answer for this one. That is nothing but H2O2 is considered as dibasic acid as it can form hydroperoxides and peroxides. You can see this one. This is called as hydroperoxides and this is called as the oxide. So understood the concept? Very simple concept this is. That is the acidic nature. If you move on to the next question related to this one, so that is The next question is, a commercial sample of hydrogen peroxide is labeled as 10 volume. Its percentage strength is nearly. Okay. So I already told about this one also, that is hydrogen peroxide is marketed as 10 volume or 100 volume like that. Okay. So here they have given, so it is marketed as 10 volume. What is its percentage? Whether it is 10%, 90%, 1% or 3%. You know that the answer is, it is 3%. What is the meaning of this one? 10 volume means, so 1 ml of hydrogen peroxide releases or produces 10 ml of oxygen at STP. If you go for percentage, it is nothing but the 3% of this one. Okay. So which is the next one? Next question is the question number 3. It is related to, once again, the hydrogen peroxide properties, or we can have, which of the following is not true? Which of the following is not true? Okay, so that is, it is a simple theoretical concept. Hardness of water depend on its behavior towards soap. It is right. So whether water is hard or soft, we decide based on the reaction of this one, right? Then the temporary hardness is due to the presence of calcium and magnesium bicarbonates. Let us think of permanent hardness is the presence of soluble calcium and magnesium sulfates, chlorides and nitrates, right? Permanent hardness can be removed by boiling the water. So they ask us as, which of these is not true? So here it is nothing but the option number 4. Permanent hardness can be removed by boiling the water. It is wrong. You know the meaning, right? So temporary hardness can be removed only by this one, boiling and Clark process. They have given the permanent hardness. It is not the answer. Remaining concepts are correct. Okay. So if you move on to the next question, that is nothing but question number 4. So that is based on the properties of this hydrogen peroxide they have given. So you know that this hydrogen peroxide, it turns blacked lead painting to white color. So for the cleaning of the old paintings, we are going to use this hydrogen peroxide, right? What happened actually there? So in this reaction, it oxidizes lead sulfide, that is PbS to PbSO4. Right? It is a black color, it will be converted into a white color. Right? It will be converted into a white color precipitate, that is nothing but the hydrogen peroxide. That is the lead sulfate. Lead sulfide is converted into lead sulfate by the action of hydrogen peroxide. So what we have to calculate? So here the number of moles of hydrogen peroxide needed to oxidize 0.1 mole of lead sulfide. Let me write the reaction this one. So that is, you know that PbS plus 4H2O2, it forms into, yes, PbSO4 plus 4H2O, you are going to get 4 molecules of water you are going to get, right? So they have asked us here that how many moles of H2O2 is required to oxidize 0.1 mole. By looking at the equation, you can see that 1 mole of lead sulfide is oxidized by 4 mole of what? Hydrogen peroxide. So what the question is, how many moles of hydrogen peroxide are required to oxidize what? 0.1 mole of lead sulfide. This is question mark here. Very simple again. So that is nothing but number of moles of H2O2 is equal to, number of moles of H2O2 is equal to, what is that? 4 into 0.1 divided by, it is 1, that will come around 0.4 mole. So the answer is, so they have given 1 mole, 0.1 mole, 10 mole, 0.4 mole. So answer is 0.4 mole. Okay, how to calculate this one? Understood? So yes, if you want, you can note down. Very simple question this is. So that is based on the property of oxidizing nature of hydrogen peroxide, right? So shall I move on to the next one? Yes, the next question is, That is the next question. It is based on the isotopes of hydrogen. So what is that? Tritium emits alpha particle, positron, beta particle or neutron. You know that out of the 3 isotopes of hydrogen, this tritium, how it will be represented as 1H3. It is radioactive in nature, right? It is radioactive in nature. So, it will undergo disintegration to form or to emit a particle. That particle is nothing but the beta particle. What is that particle called? That particle is called beta particle, represented as E0. This is the representation of that beta particle. So here, so this tritium undergo disintegration because it is radioactive to form a particle called as the beta particle. That representation is this one. Understood this one? Very simple question this is. Next, if you move on to the next one, that is how this hydrogen, or you can say the hydrogen peroxide, will undergo other reactions, or you can say the correct statement among the following is. So this is based on the similarity or dissimilarity of this dihydrogen with the alkali metals as well as the alkaline earth metals. You already know that the position of this dihydrogen in the periodic table is not proper. It is resembling both alkali metals as well as the halogens, right? So here, so that is the correct statement out of the following is, say, if you read on the question answers, hydrogen has high ionization potential value like halogens. Oxides of hydrogen is basic. Hydrogen has 4 isotopes. And next, the fourth one is none. So here, the first one is the correct answer. That is, hydrogen has high ionization potential value like halogens. So one example we can discuss here. So if you take hydrogen, this is 1312 kilojoules per mole of energy, ionization energy. First ionization, only one ionization energy is possible. That is nearly this one. If you come to the chlorine, it is 1213 kilojoules per mole. So there is a slight difference here, right? So hydrogen has slightly high ionization values than the halogens. The answer, that is oxide of hydrogen, is basic. It is wrong. It is neutral. Hydrogen has 4 isotopes. It is also wrong because hydrogen has only 3 isotopes. That is, what are those? So they are protium, deuterium and tritium. The option 4 is not the answer. So the correct answer is nothing but hydrogen has high ionization potential value like halogens, right? Shall I move on to the next one? Yes, the next question is, which of the following pairs will not produce dihydrogen gas? They have given the options as reaction of copper with HCl, then reaction of iron with sulfuric acid, then the reaction of magnesium with steam, yes, and the reaction of sodium with alcohol. Sodium with alcohol. See, almost all these reactions we have discussed in case of the preparations of dihydrogen, right? So the answer is this one. So what is that? So the action of copper on dilute HCl will not produce dihydrogen. Do you know why? So because in the electrochemical series, I think you already discussed in case of the redox reaction chapter, redox reactions chapter. So there you are going to see that the elements are arranged in the increasing or decreasing order of their reduction potentials. So in the electrochemical series, if it is hydrogen is written at the center, so it is hydrogen, copper will come beneath this one. These elements are there, no? Iron, magnesium, they will come above the hydrogen. So they can easily displace hydrogen. But as copper comes below the hydrogen, it cannot displace what? The hydrogen from the acid. So that's why, what is the answer? So the answer is the first one, that is copper plus HCl is the reaction which will not produce dihydrogen gas, whereas all other are produce dihydrogen gas. Okay. So if you move on to the next question. We move on to the next question. So here hydrogen can be fused to form helium. Hydrogen can be fused to form helium. So this is the radioactive reaction again. So hydrogen fused to form helium, right? So that may be helium means 2He4. 2He4. So you know the electronic configuration of hydrogen, 1s1, 1s1. So it will form into helium is 1s2, 1s2, right? So we can represent that helium as 2He4, right? So this reaction is possible at high temperature and high pressure, the first option, because they have given high temperature and low pressure, low temperature and high pressure, low temperature and low pressure, right? So the answer for this one is the first one, that is high temperature and high pressure, high temperature and high pressure. So because the fusion of two hydrogen atoms, as they are positively charged, right? So whenever two atoms fuse means there will be two attractive forces as well as the repulsive forces. Attractive forces as well as the repulsive forces, right? So in order to overcome that repulsive forces between the two positively charged nucleus of an atom, so there should be high temperature and high pressure. So these reactions, what we call these as thermonuclear reactions. Thermonuclear reactions. This is nothing but fusion, right? I think you learn about fission and fusion, right? So these fusion reactions are possible only at high temperature and high pressure. What do you call for those type of reactions? They are called as thermonuclear reactions, which are possible only at high temperature and high pressure. Why? Because in order to overcome the positive charges between the two atoms during the formation of the helium molecule, right? So this is the next question. So if you move on to the next one, we move on to the next question. So that is, which of the following gives H2O2 on reaction with dilute acids? So the options are, that is the next question, that is options are PbO2, lead dioxide, and then MnO2, manganese dioxide, and then barium peroxide, and then titanium dioxide. So answer is this one, because we already discussed, this is nothing but our peroxides. So by the action of dilute acids on peroxides will produce what? Our desired product, that is nothing but the hydrogen peroxide, right? So it is based on the preparations of hydrogen peroxides by the action of dilute acids on peroxides. So which is the peroxide they have given? Barium peroxide, right? So this is the answer for the question, that is barium peroxide. Okay, shall I move on to the next one? So the next question is, which of the following undergoes what? Reduction with hydrogen peroxide in an alkaline medium. Which of the following undergoes reduction with hydrogen peroxide in an alkaline medium? So either it is Mn2 plus, or it is hypochlorous acid, that is HOCl, or it is lead sulfide, or it is Fe2 plus. So see, they have given it is alkaline medium, and they are telling us to identify the reaction where it is undergoing reduction. Out of these, which is undergoing reduction? So this will undergo what? Oxidation, because Mn2 plus will be converted into MnO4. That is, oxidation number will increase there. +7, +2 to +7, right? So what do you call? There is increase in the oxidation number. That is called as oxidation, right? If you come to this one, PbS, it will be converted into what? PbSO4, lead sulfate. Again, it is oxidation. And if you take Fe2 plus, it will be converted into Fe3 plus. Again, that is nothing but an oxidation. This is also what? Oxidation. So what left with? We left with what? HOCl. If you write down the reaction for this one, so it will be H 2O2 plus Cl2, it will be converted into 2HCl plus O2. 2HCl plus O2. Look at this reaction. Here the oxidation number of chlorine is 0. And then if you come to this one, oxidation number of chlorine in case of HCl is -1. What happened to the oxidation number here? So oxidation number from 0 to -1. Oxidation number has been decreased because -1 is lesser than 0, right? This is very simple. You have to analyze like this only, this type of questions. Okay, write down the reaction and write down the oxidation number, you can easily understood. So, okay, so here 0 to -1 means there is a decrease in the oxidation number. So, this is the element HOCl, chlorine, that is hypochlorous acid, is the answer for the question where we can see that it is undergoing the reduction, right? So, next, if you move on to the next one. So, that is based on the calculation. So, before going to this one, just tell me about two expressions while doing calculations in this chapter. So, one is nothing but volume strength is equal to 11.2 into molarity and one more is there, that is volume strength is equal to 5.6 into normality. Note down these two relationships. These are very, very important while doing the calculations, right? So, one is volume strength is equal to 11.2 into molarity and one more is volume strength is equal to 5.6 into normality. And you know that normality is equal to weight of the solute divided by equivalent weight of the solute into volume in liters. Here the weight divided by this volume is nothing but the weight by volume, that is nothing but strength. So finally what we left with? We left with equivalent weight. If you divide, you are going to get the normality. While doing the calculations, this is very important. Remember this one. So based on this, okay, note down these two expressions. So volume strength is equal to 11.2 into molarity and volume strength is equal to 5.6 into normality. This shows the relationship between volume strength and molarity, and this shows the relationship between volume strength and normality, and you should know this one also. Normality is equal to weight of solute by equivalent weight into volume in liters. Yes? Yes. So, based on this, let me solve this question. So, what they have given? Let me read the question. So, here they have given one expression H2O2 plus O3. It will form into H2O plus 2O2. So, this is one reaction where we can see that this hydrogen peroxide is reducing this ozone to oxygen. Ozone has been reduced to oxygen. During this reaction, 100 ml of H2O2 solution with excess ozone liberates 4.48 liters of oxygen at STP. Volume strength of H2O2 is 22.4, 11.2, 16.8 or 5.6. Very simple. Again, this is based on this equation. You can write. So, 1 mole H2O2 produces 2 mole what? O2. 2 moles of O2. Right? Again, so 1 mole of H2O2 means, what is 1 mole of this one? O2 means, you know that 2 into 22.4 ml. That is the molar volume. Remember the concept. Okay, recall that one. That has been done in the first chapter. 1 mole of any substance occupy a volume of 22.4 dm cube. Okay, or 22.4 liters or dm cube. Right? So, from 1 mole you are going to get 22.4. So, then we can write, so 1 mole of H2O2, 1 mole of H2O2 produces, so it will come around 448 100, right? So 44,800 milliliters, okay, milliliters or ml of oxygen. So therefore 1 mole is equal to 1 molar. 1 mole is nothing but 1 molar, you know this concept, okay. So then we are having the question they have given 10 volume, right? So that is labeled as 100 ml. 100 ml liberates 4.48. So therefore that is 0.893 molar is equal to 10 volume. 0.893 molar is equal to 10 volume, right? 100 ml of H2O2 with excess of ozone liberates 4.48. So 0.893 molar is equal to 10 volume. Then 1 mole is equal to how much, that you have to calculate. 1 mole is equal to how much? Then what you are going to get? 10 into 1 divided by 0.893. Okay. 10 divided by 0.893. So if you calculate this one, so it will come around 11.9 volume, or you can take down that one as what? 11.2. So the second option is the answer for this one. That is how much? 11.2. This is how you can calculate the volume strength of H2O2, that is 11.2. Understood this concept? Okay, yes. If you move on to the next one. Next question is, so concentrated hydrochloric acid when kept in open air sometimes produces a cloud of white fumes. The explanation for it is that, this is on the solubility of this H2O2. I will read question again. Concentrated hydrochloric acid when kept in open air sometimes produces a cloud of white fumes. The explanation for it is, so it is the HCl, that is having a strong affinity towards moisture. So I think you observe in the laboratory, whenever a new bottle of hydrochloric acid, that is concentrated hydrochloric acid, is opened, you are going to get a white fumes or white cloud of these fumes. So because on exposure to the air, so it will suddenly react with the water. It is having strong affinity towards the water, or it will dissolve in water, results in the forming of droplets of liquid solution which appears like cloudy smoke. So there are options like concentrated HCl emits strong smelling HCl gas at all times. Oxygen in the air reacts with emitted HCl gas to form a cloud of chlorine gas. Okay, then strong affinity of HCl gas for moisture in the air results in the formation of droplets of liquid solution which appears like cloud, and then due to the strong affinity for water, concentrated HCl acid pull moisture of air towards itself. This moisture form droplets of water and hence the cloud. So it is the option number 3, that is the strong affinity of this HCl towards the moisture, that is nothing but the water content. So it will form into that is nothing but NH4Cl, or you can say the white cloud. It will form into a white cloud. So that is the based on the reactivity of this one. Okay. So if you move on to the next one. Okay. So that is based on the properties of this hydrogen, that is ionization energy of hydrogen is, options are equal to that of chlorine, less than that of chlorine, slightly higher than that of chlorine, much higher than that of chlorine. I think I already written for the one question. So that is if you write this one, ionization enthalpy of this hydrogen 1312 kilojoules per mole. Then if you write for chlorine, it is nearly 1255 kilojoules per mole. Okay, the ionization enthalpy of hydrogen is slightly higher than the ionization enthalpy of what? Chlorine. So the answer is the third option, slightly higher than that of the chlorine. Okay, so if you move on to the next one. Okay, very important again this is. which of the following elements do not form hydrides? So they have given different statement like question. First one, noble gas. Second option, group 7th, 8th and 9th. And third one, molybdenum and tungsten. Okay. So they have given noble gases. The second one, the elements of the group 7th, 8th and 9th group. And the third option is molybdenum and tungsten. Okay, so here we can take the, beneath they have given answer for this one, only 1, 1 and 2, 1 and 3. The fourth option is 1, 2 and 3. Answer is the fourth option, 1, 2 and 3. Right? Why? Because, so we already discussed this one. Hydrogen will react with almost all the elements of the periodic table except the noble gases. Because they are inert in nature, they will not react with anybody. Right? You know that rule. And then if you take this one, what do you call for this one? Just recall, interstitial hydrides I discussed. There I told, this is called as hydride gap. This is called as hydride gap. Okay, 7th, 8th and 9th group elements will not form hydrides. And then if you go for 6th group, only chromium will form the hydrides. Right? So that is nothing but the last type of hydrides, that is, right, metallic or interstitial hydrides. So there we discussed that 7th, 8th, 9th along with the 6th group. In the 6th group only chromium will form the hydrides, except chromium, all other will not form. There is a gap here, there is no hydride formation here. What do you call for that gap? Hydride gap. And then again, if you take this molybdenum and tungsten, these will also not form hydrides. They will not react with the hydrogen to form the hydrides. So the answer is the fourth option, that is all 1, 2 and 3 will not form the hydrides with the hydrogen. Right? Again. Okay, the next question, very important again, based on the coordination compounds. So number of hydrogen bonded water molecules associated in copper sulfate, 5H2O. How many water molecules are hydrogen bonded? That is the question. So if you represent this copper sulfate, actually it is a coordination compound. It will represent as CuSO4 H2O 4 times. Outside the bracket we are going to write one water molecule. Look at this one. Okay, 4 water out of 5 water molecules, 4 water molecules are associated with they are present in the coordination sphere. They are present in the coordination sphere. Are you getting the concept? So they are bonded to the copper sulfate through coordinate bonds. There is only one water molecule which is present outside the sphere. So that's why how many hydrogen bonds you can see in case of this one? Only one. The option 1 is the answer. That is one hydrogen bond that is present outside the water. And what do you call for this one? This is called as blue vitriol. Very important again, this is called as blue vitriol. Anhydrous copper sulfate, when it made to react with the water, no, it will form a blue color solution. So property of water can also be studied with the help of this one. Very beautiful reaction this is, right? So here anhydrous copper sulfate turns blue because it will form, that is hydrated copper sulfate solution. The question is how many water molecules, or you can say how many hydrogen bonds are present in case of this one, right? That is answer is only one, that is present outside the sphere. Okay, if the reverse question, same concept, reverse question has been asked, means how many coordinately bonded water molecules are present, means answer is 4. Right, they ask us about hydrogen bond, so 1. If they ask for coordinate bond, what is the answer? 4. And one more question may be asked here, right? It is an example for what? Coordinated water. Hydride formation is there? No. There coordinated compound means you have to write this one, copper sulfate again. Okay, yes. If you move on to the next one. Which of the following is a peroxide? Simple question. This is just I will read KO2, KO2, that is nothing but the superoxide, BaO2, and then manganese dioxide, MnO2, and then nitrogen dioxide. Out of these, which is a peroxide? Answer is second one, that is barium peroxide. Okay, simple question this is. Move on to the next one. Okay, water obtained by purification with organic ion exchange resin is, I repeat, water obtained by purification with organic ion exchange resin is, options are pure water, free only from calcium and magnesium ions, free from bicarbonate, sulfate and chloride ions. One more is there, none of this. Option 4 is none of this. None of these. Okay, first options they have given what? That is, it is a pure water. Second one they have given free from only calcium and magnesium ions. Calcium and magnesium ions. And then the third option is free from bicarbonate and then sulfate and chloride only. Yes, it is obtained by organic ion exchange resin. Recall this one. Exchange resin means what you are going to get? You are going to get demineralized water. Yes, what you are going to get? Demineralized water. That means to say there will be no minerals at all. Right? It is pure, free from only calcium and magnesium, bicarbonate or that is. Answer is none of this. Because it is free from almost all the ions. It is not only bicarbonate, sulfate or chloride, or it is not only calcium and magnesium. It is free from all the ions. The option is not there. That's why what we can write, none of this. That is the fourth one, right? Remember, that is ion exchange resin. It is not synthetic exchange resin. It is ion exchange resin. Permitted process is a different one. Right? Ion exchange means, you remember, demineralized, totally free from almost all the what? Ions. Right? That is. Okay. Move on to the next one. Yes. Which of the following is the electron deficient molecule? Electron deficient molecules, they have given B2H6, that is the, C2H6, then B2H6 diborane, then silane, that is SiH4, silicon tetrahydride. Fourth one, phosphine, that is nothing but the hydride of phosphorus, PH3. Out of these, you have to identify which is electron deficient. Right? So the answer for this one is B2H6. Yes, we discussed this one, very simple again. Boron, it will undergo sp3 hybridization, of course. Right? It will form 4 hybrid orbitals. Out of those 4 hybrid orbitals, it will form what? Hydrogen bonds with 3 hydrogen atoms. Right? Like this. B2H6 means this one. sp3 hybridization means how many hybrid orbitals will be formed? 4. I have shown 3 hybrid orbitals here, right? So one I will write here and one more here from this one, they will overlap. So if you observe these bonds, no, so there will be electron in this means there will be no electron here. If there is an electron means there will be no electron, one more orbital. One orbital is empty orbital. It is lack of electron. That's why it is an example for what type of hydride? It is an example for, yes, of course, it is a covalent hydride. In case of covalent hydride, what type of hydride it is? Electron deficient hydride, which is that diborane. So you are going to learn this one in case of, again, p block elements. We call these bonds as banana bonds because of their resemblance, banana shape resemblance. There we can see that one orbital is having electron and one is not having electron, because boron is trivalent, only 3 electrons it is having. 3 electrons involved in the formation of 3 bonds with the hydrogen. One orbital is empty. That's why it is electron deficient. Okay, yes, we will move on to the next one. Yes, the next question is, identify the correct statement from the following. B2H6 is an electron deficient. Now itself I discuss. Yes, it is correct. NH3 is an electron rich hydride. I will explain. NaH is a covalent hydride. Let us see. And ytterbium hydride is an interstitial hydride. Okay, whether it is 1, 2, 3. Option 1, 2, 3 are correct, or second, third and fourth are correct. 1, 2 and 4 are correct, or 1, 3 and 4. So the answer for this question is the option 4, that is 1, 3 and 4. Yes, what is that one option? B2H6 is the electron deficient. Yes, it is correct. NH3 is an electron rich. Yes, if you look at the NH3, right, if you write the electronic configuration, 1s2, 2s2. Okay, atomic number is 7. Nitrogen atomic number is 7. 1s2, 2s2, it is 2p3, right? So if you it will undergo sp3 hybridization, results in the formation of 4 orbitals. So here if you take this one p orbital, no, so p3 means 3, and then you can have 2s orbital. So these will involve in the formation. Actually it is having 5 electrons in the valence orbital. Out of 5, only 3 are involved in the formation of bond. What about these two? They are the extra electrons which are present on the central atom, that is nothing but the nitrogen. That's why it is electron rich hydride. Right? Then if you take this one, next option, that's why it is correct. Second option is also correct. Move on to the third one. They told NaH, sodium hydride, is a covalent hydride. It is wrong. Yes, why it is? Because you see this one, sodium hydride, so it is an ionic hydride. Example for ionic hydride, sodium, it is alkali metal. When hydrogen react with the alkali metal, it will form into what? It will form into a ionic hydride. The last one, fourth, that is ytterbium hydride. It is an example for interstitial hydride. Yes, that is correct. So the answer is 1, 3 and 4. That is the fourth option is the answer for this one. These are the correct statements. Right? So 1, 2 and 4 actually, that is 1, 2 and 4. It is there? Yes. Yes. That is the third one. Third option is the correct answer. 1, 2 and 4. Yes, are you getting? Yes, that. If you move on to the next one, 1, 2 and 4. Answer for that one. Okay. The next one, group 2 hydrides with significant covalent character is BeH2, MgH2, both 1 and 2, sodium hydride and calcium hydride. So the ask about the covalent character. Covalent character. Okay. So the answer for this one is nothing but the third one, both 1 and 2. What is the one? Beryllium hydride. Yes. What is 2? Magnesium hydride, MgH2. These two are what? They are called as covalent hydride. Even though they are alkaline earth metals, they belong to S block, right? So they are nothing but what? They are called as covalent hydrides. Why? Because of their smaller size. Beryllium and magnesium are having smaller size and high polarizing power, or you can say high charge by radius ratio. Charge by radius ratio. Even though they are S block elements, they are forming what? Covalent hydrides. So that is the third option. 1 and 2, both 1 and 2 are example for covalent character. Okay. So if you move on to the next one. The next question. Yes, among, again based on the same concept, among calcium hydride, then ammonia, and then sodium hydride, and again B2H6, which are covalent hydrides. Very simple this is. So options are NH3 and B2H6, NaH and CaH2, sodium hydride and ammonia, calcium hydride and Tiborane. So answer is the first option, that is this one and this one, because these two are ionic hydrides. Ionic hydrides. What about this one? These two are what? Covalent hydrides. One is example for electron rich hydride and one is example for electron deficient hydride. Both are nothing but covalent hydrides. So the answer is the first option, NH3 and B2H6. So if you move on to the next one. Yes, question. Options are not properly given. Let me read. Particle emitted on disintegration of tritium is, first one is the plus 1 E0 and the second option is minus 1 E0 and the third one is alpha particle and the next one is neutron. Next one is neutron. Okay. So here we have to say 32. Okay. Yes, this is the answer for that question. I think we got this one. It's based on the radioactivity of tritium, right? So differently the question has been asked. So that is nothing but the particle emitted during the disintegration of tritium is this one, that is nothing but the minus 1 E0 beta particle, that is. Okay. Move on to the next one. Yes, the correct order of reactivity among atomic hydrogen, dihydrogen, nascent hydrogen. Again, it is very simple concept, just I will read the answer. Again, I am repeating. The correct order of reactivity among atomic hydrogen, dihydrogen, nascent hydrogen is, so you remember this concept. So always atomic hydrogen having greater activity than nascent, note down this one, this order, that is more reactive than one more, that is nothing but the dihydrogen. This is the order of reactivity. Order of reactivity of dihydrogen. Okay, what is that? So here, let me write here. So atomic, then nascent, then dihydrogen. This is the order. You have to remember this order. Question may come in different ways based on the concept. That's why. So this atomic hydrogen is there, no? It is highly reactive because hydrogen is present in the excited state. You know about hydrogen atomic state means 1s1. Only one electron that will be in the excited state. How you are going to represent the nascent hydrogen? It will be represented like this. It is a newly born hydrogen. We can call this one as. And then dihydrogen means H2, which is little more stable, right? It is highly stable. So out of these, which is less stable, more reactive. You know this relationship also, right? What is that? Reactivity is inversely proportional to the stability. Highly reactive means less stable. Less reactive means highly stable. Okay, like that, based on that concept. So then we can give the order as, so first one, that is nothing but atomic hydrogen. The second one is nascent, 1, 3, 2. Answer is the second option. What is that order? 1, 3 and 2. Yes, what is 1? Atomic hydrogen. 3, it is 2 actually. In the, yes, second one and then the last one. Okay, so the answer for this one is the second option, 1, 3 and 2. 1, 3, 2. In our question atomic hydrogen, dihydrogen, nascent hydrogen. That's why nascent hydrogen second, then this one. Okay, na? So if you move on to the next one. Yes, moist hydrogen peroxide cannot be dried over concentrated sulfuric acid. I repeat, moist hydrogen peroxide cannot be dried over concentrated sulfuric acid because it can catch fire, It is reduced by sulfuric acid, it is oxidized by sulfuric acid, it is decomposed by sulfuric acid. So answer is the fourth option. What is that? It is decomposed. Decomposed by, it is decomposed by sulfuric acid, that is H2SO4. Moist hydrogen peroxide cannot be dried over concentrated sulfuric acid because it is decomposed by sulfuric acid. You know about the storage of sulfuric acid, right? That is hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is what? Highly unstable. If it come in contact with small amount of alkalis or acids or the glass surfaces, it will undergo decomposition. Leads to the formation of what? You know this reaction. H2O2 decompose to produce H2O plus O2. This reaction will take place immediately. Immediately this reaction will take place because it is highly unstable. That's why we should not be dried over sulfuric acid, right? Understood this one? The fourth one is the answer for this one. It is decomposed by sulfuric acid. If you move on to the next question. Based on the physical property of this hydrogen peroxide, an ionic compound is dissolved simultaneously in heavy water and simple water. You are having two sample of water. One is the heavy water, one is the simple water, ordinary water. Its solubility is, options are larger in heavy water, smaller in heavy water. Solubility is same in both, smaller in simple water. So you know that the water is considered as what? Universal solvent. Water is considered as universal solvent because of its higher dielectric constant. Because of its higher dielectric constant, it is considered as universal solvent. Almost all the ionic compounds are soluble in simple water in higher quantity compared to the heavy water. So the answer for this one is the option 2, smaller in heavy water, because heavy water is having lesser dielectric constant than the water. So what is the answer? Smaller in heavy water. Heavy water. So what is the representation of heavy water? That is D2O. What is the cause? Why it is smaller? Because of its lesser dielectric constant. Right? So if you move on to the next question. Okay, so it is hydrogen. Is a simple question. Hydrogen has 3 isotopes, right? The number of possible diatomic molecule will be, hydrogen has 3 isotopes, the number of possible diatomic molecules will be, options are 3, then 6, 9, and then the next one is 12, right? Diatomic molecules means, see, isotopes of hydrogen means what are those? Hydrogen, deuterium, tritium, right? Hydrogen plus hydrogen, it will form dihydrogen. Deuterium will form D2 molecule. Then tritium will form T2 molecule. Then there is a possibility of formation of one hydrogen reaction with deuterium to form HD. And then deuterium can react with tritium to form DT. And similarly, what? Hydrogen can react with tritium to form what? What we call that one as HT. How many diatomic molecule you can get out of this one? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what is the answer? Option 2 is the answer for this one, that is 6. Hydrogen has 3 isotopes. The number of possible diatomic molecules will be 6, and those diatomic molecules are these. Okay, so if you move on to the next one. Okay, yes, very simple. This is again C2D2, that is nothing but compound of what? It is a compound of heavy water, is formed when heavy water reacts with, they have given the options as beryllium carbide, Be2C, then aluminium carbide, Al4C3, then the third one calcium carbide, CaC2, and the fourth one, it is, what is that? Mg2C. What is the question? How this will form? Okay, so when C2D2 reacts with heavy water, that is nothing but 2D2O. So it will form into what? That is nothing but our desired compound C2D2, calcium carbide actually this is CaC2. CaC2, it will form C2D2 with the formation of CaOD ties. So this is simply the reaction what we are going to use in the preparations of alkynes. Acetylene preparation is there? No, same type of reaction it is. There we are going to use H2O. What is the product you are going to get? Ethine, C2H2, right? Along with the formation of calcium hydroxide. Likewise, you are having what? Calcium carbide and reacting with our heavy water forms into the compound that is nothing but C2D2, that is acetylene. You can say that one as acetylene. But you have to remember that, what is that? Here hydrogen is nothing but the deuterium, D2. That is, so the answer is option 3, calcium carbide. Okay. So if you move on to the next one. Okay. Which of the following compound act as negative catalyst for decomposition of H2O2? I repeat, which of the following compound act as negative catalyst for the decomposition of H2O2? So options are alcohol, then MnO2, then sodium hydroxide, NaOH, then the fourth one is carbon. Okay, so the answer for this one is alcohol, because see, as I said, hydrogen peroxide is highly unstable. It may react with alkalis, it may react with acids, it will come across with the metal surface, it also react, metal oxides also decompose this one. So what we are going to do, we store this hydrogen peroxide in plastic bottles, right, or wax lined glass bottles. They should be lined with the wax. Then, or we can add the stabilizers like urea you can add, alcohol you can add, ammonia you can add. These are all act as what? Stabilizer. Alcohol is a stabilizer. What it will do? It will prevent the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen. So this is actually a work of positive catalyst to promote this reaction. But our alcohol, it is what? It is avoiding this reaction, reverse reaction. It will stabilize, it will prevent. So one which inhibit the formation of product is nothing but, what do you call that one as? Negative catalyst, or you can call that one as a inhibitor. So now our alcohol act as a inhibitor because it is avoiding the reaction to decompose this hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen, whereas all other, these are acting as what? Positive catalysts. You can get the question also from this concept. Positive catalyst means all these are positive, it is the negative because it is avoiding the decomposition, right? Yes, let me discuss one more. That is the physical constants which are less for D2O, that is heavy water, than water are freezing point and boiling point, density and viscosity, solvating ability and dielectric constant, temperature of maximum density. So the physical constants which are less, you remember, that is the answer for this one is the third one. What is that? That is solvating ability and dielectric constant. So these are the two physical properties which are having lesser value for D2O than H2O, that our ordinary water molecules. So, we will end up to this in this class. We shall discuss the remaining in the next class. Thank you.